Hey guys, today on JD Cars we're going to be installing this beautiful OHLINS shock on this 2018 Honda Grom clone. So if you own a Honda Grom or a Honda Grom clone like I do, you'll know that the stock suspension that comes on the bike really isn't that great. Most Honda Groms come with rear shocks with zero adjustability. My shock does have preload adjustability, but there's no adjustability of the rebound or compression. So today we'll be upgrading the rear shock to what I believe is an OHLINS HO324 shock, which does have adjustable compression. So just a couple specs and information on this shock here. The shock body itself is precision drawn steel, and our piggyback style reservoir here is made of aluminum. We have a chrome silicone spring with adjustable preload. We have adjustable compression on the reservoir here, and additionally the shock is 100% rebuildable. So if you choose to invest in this shock, it is a long-term investment. You can always rebuild it and it will provide you with great long-lasting performance for years to come. So first things first here, we have to remove all of the side fairing on the side of the bike to access the top bolt on the shock. As you can see, you cannot access it from the rear here. You need to remove all of the fairing on this side. I've already done so on the left side of the bike. As you can see, completely exposed the frame of the bike and all of the internals, as well as the rear shock bolt. So we're going to repeat the same process over on the right side, and I'll show you how to do so now. So first things first, we'll pop the seat. This will expose all of the rear fasteners for the fairing, and to remove the front portion here, we have to come inside near the front fork, and we'll have 1, 2, 3 Phillips head screws to remove there. We'll have 2 more down on the side of the fairing here. 1 up by the gas tank here. Next we'll have 1 Phillips head screw here, 1 on the inside of the fairing, a 10mm bolt here, and after popping off this top side fairing here, it will reveal 1 more 10mm bolt on the side. At this point, the last fastener holding the fairing on the bike is this large Phillips head screw on the right side here. I like to save this one for last because it's easiest to hold the fairing and remove the fastener at the same time to prevent dropping the fairing and scratching it up. And just like that, we can remove the fairing, and the internals of the bike are completely exposed. It looks pretty crazy right now. I haven't really opened the bike up this much before, but it's pretty cool to see all of the inners. You can see the air box up here. I haven't seen that before. The carb, starter, all of the electrical here. But most importantly for this install, we now have access to this top rear shock bolt. I'm gonna bring the bike over. We'll see if we can't use our new max jacks to lift up the bike while we're installing the rear shock here. So I have one of the arms under the gear case here, one of them under the cylinder head. You can also do this with any old floor jack and a piece of plywood if you don't have a lift, but it looks like this is gonna work out here. Now I'm just gonna raise the bike up just enough that the rear tire isn't making contact here, and I'm gonna lower it down just enough so it barely makes contact with the ground. That way we don't have to fuss around with lifting and lowering the tail to line up the bolts for the rear shock. Just a quick note, I'm just gonna take a few seconds here to remove this rear fender just to make our life a little easier accessing the rear shock, and that entails removing 4 10mm bolts, 2 on either side here. We've got a 12mm bolt head and a 14mm nut. Same thing in the top here. You can access the bolt from the right side. You can see the bolt head through the frame there. You want to stick your box wrench through the top and access the 14mm nut from the left side here. We now get to install this beautiful OHLINS shock. I'm gonna start off by installing the top bolt just because it's easier in that order. And I am going to install 2 M10 flat washers on either side of the shock's bushings, just because there is a slight difference in the geometry of this clone bike. Other than that, the length is an exact match, so we're good to go. Once we've got the bolt threaded through, we're just gonna thread this lock nut onto the bolt, and we're just gonna thread it on there finger tight for now. Not gonna torque that down until we have the lower bolt installed. Now with both bolts installed, we'll tighten them down and torque them down to 34 foot-pounds each, top and bottom. Alright, so the OHLINS rear shock is now completely installed, and all we have to do now is reinstall the fairing on either side. So of course that's just going to be the reverse process as removal. So I'm going to do that off camera here just to cut down on time. And with all the fairing and seat reinstalled, here's some nice rolling shots of the new OHLINS shock. So that's going to wrap up the installation of this OHLINS rear shock on the 2018 Honda Grom clone. As you can see from the grass clippings, I have taken this for a little ride around my yard. However, it's pitch black outside. I can't really film any riding videos, but I can tell you my first impressions on this shock here. I think it's definitely made a huge improvement in the ride quality of the bike. It really does a fantastic job of dampening the shock in comparison to the stock shock, which is just really springy. The installation took me probably an hour. It's really straightforward, and as you can see, it's only 2 bolts to remove the shock. While I may only have just installed this shock, I can tell you the build quality is exceptional, and I can tell this shock's gonna last for a long time. Also, just a quick side note, if you're interested in getting a stainless steel carbon fiber exhaust for your Honda Grom, I got both this exhaust and this shock from 402innovations.com. They have numerous custom Grom parts, and they're the only site to offer this exhaust system, which I am a huge fan of. If you're interested in seeing a video on it, be sure to check out my 402 Innovations carbon fiber exhaust video. Other than that, I'd like to thank 402innovations.com and belmontebikes.com for making this video possible. And I haven't mentioned this in any recent videos. I don't think I've mentioned it for months now. But be sure to check out jd-cars.com for all your JD Cars merch. We have hoodies, long sleeves, t-shirts, hats, and much more. So be sure to check that out. And other than that, please leave a like below, subscribe if you've yet to do so, and I'll see you next time on JD Cars.